Mate, over the years, you've worked with a lot of businesses and you've gone through the different types of, different phases of a business, if you like. So from the startup phase, the growth phase, the consolidation phase, and then all the way to the exiting phase. When should somebody be branding? People only realize at the end, at the exit, that, hey, my brand's not worth anything because it ends up in goodwill. Tell me about that journey, because it's something that you talk about and you say that you should be doing this every day. We should be working on this every day, but I'm not sure that people really get to the heart of what you're really meaning there. Maybe you can take some time to explain that for us.
Just before the pandemic and even post-pandemic, I think that the way that we thought about business, the way that we grew business, the way we had to make business robust through the pandemic has really had to make us think very differently about business. But prior to the pandemic, when I would be consulting with businesses, and you must understand, Rob, I've worked on about 4,000 accounts over 35 years. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people think that they're going to come back to the brand later. They've got more important things to take care of. They've got to get sales. They've got to pay their staff. They've got to get new offices. They're going to get new skewers into their line. There's a multiple of reasons what people give, which are all validated. I don't dispute them by no means. But I found that when people at the late end of their business who now can afford a change, 9 times out of 10 confuse their customer, spend more re-educating their customer that the value is still the same,
when they change their brand.
When they change their brand.
Yep.
Or people don't necessarily understand the journey. So I've always said to business owners, tweak a brand, don't change a brand. So just create tweaks is always welcome, because if you had to look at Levi, and I think we'll have this on another discussion where we can show the examples, Levi has been going for over 150 years, and you can see how the brand has had to change for the times that they were in order to be relevant, in order to the trend that was taking place at that point in time. Levi changed their brand in 2003, and to this day are still relevant because they've created a lot of iconography value in the sense of the digital age. But what is happening right now is that when a business has to, at the end, re-spend money to try and validate investment, 9 times out of 10 it's too thin or too shallow in order to quantify measurables. So therefore it works out to be no value. My best advice right now for businesses, it doesn't matter if you're a small business, you're a large business, if you're part of a franchise, I believe strongly that anyone who's in charge of that business, you should be concentrating on brand values and making sure that you can have fun with your brand, because by having fun with your brand, that's when you get your customer to have fun with your brand. I don't mean to be silly and do stupid things. I think stay within the recipe of your design, but make sure that it is playful enough in order to go. So Google went and created Doodles. And Doodles was you open up your Google page and they would be playing with their brand in order to edutain you to have fun. There was a few years ago where Google changed their brand and they said, we moved the one letter just by a pixel. And I said, we had another look and said, a pixel. And I said, why did you move it? It's out by a pixel. And they said, well, because it was out by a pixel.
Well, the designer sees 1 pixel, it looks like 1 mile to them, but
exactly.
Everyone else, they're like,
you know. But it was all just a strategy to get everyone to just look at the brand a second time, a third time, a close-up. Yeah. And so one of the things that I look at is don't mess with a good recipe. Start with a good recipe and keep on refining it. I think the brand is the science as to where you apply your communication to on the multiple of platforms that are now at your fingertips. Compared to how it used to be back in the day when it was traditional marketing. You used to now place an advert in a publication, place an advert on a billboard, wait for 2.2 passengers past a car to have views on your, it's changed. You've now got analytics to measure where you're at, you know, and at a moment's notice, you can make changes. You couldn't change a billboard previously when it was up on the side of the road.
Yep.
So I think that the lessons learned is make a brand robust, think about the end in mind now, and make sure that you are consistently, you and your team, understand the values as to what you are and what those touch points are, making sure that your customers have great experiences, and get your team to understand how to create those touch points to be great experiences.
I want to share an experience that I had with a major brand who changed the name of their brand, and get this, I can't remember what they changed it to as I'm sitting here with you. I'll find it and I'll put it in the B-roll in the video here for us. But at the end of where I live in Cronulla, there's the Ridges Hotel.
Yes.
So the lady who used to be one of the managers there was one of my clients.
Right.
And I remember going to see her one day saying hi, and she sat me down, had a cup of coffee with her, and I was chatting with her, and she was with another woman who was just finishing up. And I said, oh, what's all that about? Because it looked all very serious. There was a couple of people, and there was all these like documents on the on the table, and there was all these, there was like a slide deck that had been printed. And she said, don't say anything, but Ridges is changing the brand. I said, what do you mean they're changing the brand? Is it not going to be Ridges Hotel anymore? She said, no. And I remember where I live, as you drive down the hill towards the bottom.
Yeah.
So the hotel is at like the very last building before you get to the actual beach, and you can see the sign. It says Ridges, and I remember them pulling the sign down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's changing, but I can't remember what it changed to.
So did they sell it?
No.
They just changed the brand.
They changed the name. That was the really strange thing. But you know what they did a couple of months later? They put the Ridges sign back up.
Well, there was a story.
What it was?
There was also with Gap jeans many years ago in the US. They went and changed their brand, and all the consumers said, no, we don't like it, go back.
Just a bridge too far
Yes.
for some people.
Yeah.
And when, you know, if you are a Ridges customer and you're used to staying in those hotels and the hotel chain that is encompassed by that, and all of a sudden that's gone, it's gone the way of the dodo for some reason, because they wanted to change the name, the colors, the logos, because it was going to be more hip and it would bring more to it. It was a categorical mistake. And it's exactly what you said. When you're changing a brand, you just need to tweak it ever so slightly, just incrementally. Just think about your iPhone or your Android phone that you have. They don't send out one update a month. They, you know, if you've got an Apple phone and iOS, there's an update that comes out a couple of times a week, and you're like, far out, I've got to update my phone again. Yes. And the reason for that is because they don't want to put all of these updates and all of this stuff in one update, because if it goes out and something's not quite right, it breaks it. So they work on one little itty bitty thing at a time, and incrementally they roll those things out.
Sure.
And over a long period of time, it actually makes their system better and makes it more stable. And it's a good analogy for about how you should work on your business and work particularly on your brand. Don't make the mistake of what Ridges did and put the sign up there and then have to pull the sign down a couple of weeks later. It's a pretty embarrassing thing for them to go through. That's the first thing. You know, they're professionally embarrassed. It looks like just ridiculous. And their customers are just probably going, I thought I was part of this loyalty program. I thought I was part of this. And now what's all going on here? It's very strange.
Well, you know, unfortunately, consumers never like change. They don't mind added value. They don't mind better features, but they don't like change. So often when you get marketing managers, product managers who come up with a great idea, maybe on paper it's a great idea, but for the consumer who now receives it at the other end, they start to question the quality. They start to question the reason, and should they now start looking elsewhere to find something that is now marrying to what they are prepared to spend as to what they used to spend.
The really interesting thing is that these stories abound everywhere. You don't have to look too far, folks, to find stories like these. If you need help with your branding and you want to have a conversation like this about your brand, about how we can help you, come on over to brand-scientist.com, and we'd be happy to take a call, jump on a Zoom with you, and have a discussion about what it is that you're doing to move your brand forward. Any questions at all, you can pop it in the description or in the comments below, and all of the links to connect with us are down there as well. Have you got any closing remarks on changing your brand incrementally?
I just think that start with the end in mind. I think when you're starting a business, you don't start it to fail. You started with the view to build an empire. So think like you're building an empire, and start with the end in mind, and be strict with your brand. Don't let it be. That's where brand guides always have played a key role to make sure that brands don't move around, because there's always a bit of, like, when a brand is recreated, there's always a bit of creep that takes place. But I think what's important is be strict with the brand, but at the same time educate your team as to the values that your brand stands for. I think it's a big misconception that most businesses don't take on.
Yeah, I love it. All right, folks, that wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.